All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're having a good day so far. My name's Chloe, and I'm going to be your peer advisor today. So we're just going to start out with a small group discussion, which will last until 10:45. So about 45 minutes to an hour with some questions and all that good stuff. I'm basically just going to cover everything you need to know to be an incoming Wildcat. So academic policies, some general education and course selection tips. I'm just basically here for any questions or concerns you might have as well. Please feel free to stop me, slow me down, ask questions at any point. I'm here not just to talk at you, I want you to understand all this information. So please know that I'm here for you, and I'm so excited for your time at Chico State. All right, so first off, just for a little bit of an intro and a little bit about me, like I said, my name is Chloe. I just graduated from Chico State, actually, with my bachelor's in communication design and an option in graphic design. I went to Butte College for my general education and my lower division courses, actually, and I went there during high school for a few years, and then after I graduated high school, just to finish up all my general education and all my requirements in order to transfer to Chico State. So I transferred in fall 2018, so almost 2 years ago. And I've really had a great time at Chico State. It was a bit of a rough transition, just getting used to, a new environment and new professors, new classes, getting into my major and all that. It is overwhelming. I definitely would not be here and be as successful as I was in college if not for all of my professors, my friends, my family, my classmates. You definitely need to have a support system, and I'm so thankful that I did. But that's definitely something to be aware of, just because the transition to college, or even for me, from one college to another, to a university, it can be big and it can be challenging. So be aware of that for sure. But yeah, enough about my story. Just a few other fun facts. I have been a volunteer dog photographer at Butte Humane Society, which is our local animal shelter, for over 8 years now, ever since I met the age requirement at the time, which was 12. And I was the designer of the class of 2020 grad t-shirt, which I'm wearing right here in this photo. And that was part of my internship I had on campus, which I'm so grateful for. It was an awesome experience. This is actually my second year working for summer orientation. So last year I was a peer advisor, and this year I am actually a member of senior staff. So I've had a bit of sort of overseeing roles and things like that, and mentorship for all the new peer advisors. But I'm so happy to be back at it and doing this job again. Absolutely love this job, and if anyone's interested, let me know, because it's an awesome, awesome, awesome summer job. And Chico is my hometown. I've been here all my life. I was born and raised here. So if you have any questions about restaurants or anything like that, hit me up. I'm here. But yeah, just a few photos. And enough about me. So let's have a little icebreaker. I know icebreakers, but I just want to get to know all of you a little bit better. It's kind of harder to do through Zoom, so I just want to make sure that I'm connecting with you and I know where you're coming from, what you're excited about, and all that awesome stuff. So real quick, we're just all going to go around and share our name, our hometown, our major, our favorite food, and what we're most excited for at Chico State. So I'll start just to give an example, give you a minute to think. I'm Chloe, my hometown is Chico, my major was communication design. My favorite food is burritos, specifically from Amigos de Acapulco. It's downtown, if anyone wants to try it out. And when I was in your shoes, what I was most excited for at Chico was getting into more of my major classes and learning more about my field and what my career would look like. So the floor is yours, whoever wants to go first. I'd love to hear a bit about you. Oh, cool, that's awesome. I love all of your answers. All right, well, next we're going to move on. First, I just want to go over a little bit of Zoom etiquette before we get into all of the information I'll be giving you today, just so that we all know how it works and we're getting the most out of it and using it the best that we can. So first of all, please mute yourself whenever you're not speaking. This is not because I don't want to hear from you. I definitely do. But if we aren't muted, there's going to be a lot of feedback and a lot of extra background noise from all of our microphones. So you might not be able to hear me or hear, any one of you who are speaking. So please just get in the habit of muting yourself unless you have a question, a comment, a concern, anything like that. Of course, you're welcome to talk. If you have a question and I'm talking, or you just don't think it's the best time to interject, please use the raise hand feature. This can be found by clicking on participants at the bottom of your screen, and then there should be a little button to raise your hand. This way I'll be able to see that, and I'll know if any of you have raised your hand. I can call on you and see what's on your mind. And then also, if you would rather type your questions, you can totally do that in the chat. That's also available down at the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And you can type those questions just to everyone, which is awesome because a lot of you might have the same questions. But also, if there are any concerns that are maybe a little bit more personal, or you don't want to ask to the whole group, you can select specific users to send that message to. So you can send it just to myself or anyone who you think can answer that question. Any questions about Zoom or why we're here today, anything like that? All right, awesome. So moving on, just a little bit about academic success and what you should have on hand and at your ready to be prepared for this talk. Your materials will be the Wildcat Student Guide and Planner and the GE Planning Sheet. You should all have one of each of these. If you don't, let me know. I can also pull up these resources and share my screen, which I'll likely do. Or I actually have like screenshots of the GE Planning Sheet so that you'll be able to see it on my screen as well, but it's super, super helpful if you can follow along on your own too. And like I've kind of touched on, the goal of this talk is just to set you up for success, help you understand your resources that are here for you at Chico State, and also to prepare you to select your courses and register so you're all ready for the fall semester, which I know is probably the most exciting part and what you're most looking forward to today. And as students, you are responsible for this information, just like you would be at any lecture, any discussion, basically any class you attend. I'm not recording this or anything like that. So just please know that you're responsible for this. Take notes on anything that I say is important or that you think is important, anything that you'll be able to use throughout your time here at Chico. And also take notes of possible classes. I will get into general education in a good bit of detail, and we'll talk about some different classes you should enroll in, or maybe just classes you're interested in. So definitely take note of that, and it'll greatly help you later when you're registering. And just please be attentive. Of course, if you need a bathroom break or anything like that, of course you're welcome to do so. You can totally take breaks, but please be attentive, and you are responsible for this knowledge. Okay, sorry about that. Here are our key topics for our talk today. So first, we're going to discuss navigating Chico State's online resources. There's some really important resources online, and I want to make sure that you all know where to find them and how to use them. We're also going to go over the 9 graduation requirements, just things to be aware of to make sure that you're on track to get your degree. And then general education and course selection, we'll dive into a fair bit of depth on that, as well as academic policies you should know, and some registration tips. All right. Sorry, my keys are not working right. Okay, so online tools, I'll show you these. I'm gonna click this link in just a moment and bring these up. But just to kind of give you an overview, we're gonna be looking at the catalog, which is packed with information and different windows within there that I hope you'll all be using and very used to and comfortable with throughout your time here at Chico. So there are tabs to look at courses, to browse classes and learn about what they're all about. There's also a tab called Academic Programs where you can learn all about your major, your department information, maybe contact info, stuff like that, and just make sure that you're keeping up to date on your major requirements. There's also degree maps to make sure that you're staying on track, just another form of doing so. And then there's also a class schedule, a campus map, a directory, and a few other things that I'll show you. So let's click this and head on into it. All right. So, okay, I think you should be able to see this still. So this is the Chico State homepage. I'm assuming all of you have seen this. It would probably be pretty hard to get this far without seeing this homepage, but in case you haven't, here it is. This will always change with whatever interesting story or news article is happening around Chico State's campus or community. And these tabs up here at the top are what I'm going to be focusing on during this conversation. First off is Portal. So I'm not going to go into this right now. You'll see it later, but it's basically just where you go to get to your student center, to Blackboard, which is where your course materials will be, things like that, just things that you'll use pretty constantly when you're a student here. Next is a link to your Wildcat Mail. So not MS Exchange, but the Wildcat Mail will take you to your student email account. It's not the only way you can get there, but if you need to, it's there. This is the catalog, which I will click into. This is the class schedule, the campus map, the directory. I'm going to look into all of these, and then the library as well. So let's just get started with the catalog. All right, so here is the university catalog, and the first thing I want to point out to you all is that it says right here, 2020 to 2021 university catalog. So this is specifically for this year. Major requirements, course requirements can change from year to year. There's always going to be something in some major changing every single year. So definitely make sure that you're looking at the right year, and make sure that you're following your major requirements. So for the year that you came into Chico State or the year that you declared that major, that's going to be your catalog year. So for example, if I was still attending Chico State and I needed to look at my major requirements, I would scroll over here to Catalog Library and come right down here to 2018-2019 University Catalog. That takes me to my catalog, and that will have all of my information that I need. But for all of you, you're most likely going to need the 2020 catalog unless any of you change your major or declare your major in a different year. If you do, just be aware of that and make sure you're using the correct year. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is academic programs. Can I have someone shout out a major that you want to look at? Maybe it's yours. Computer science, cool. Okay, so computer science. We can click on that, and this homepage stays pretty similar throughout each major. It'll talk about just the department or the program in general, kind of its like mission statement sort of a thing. Here it talks about its faculty, facilities, student orgs, career outlook. Pretty much every major will have one of these, which is pretty cool. You can look into what this major might turn into for as far as a career for you in the future, which is pretty useful, I would say, especially if you're just kind of exploring majors or seeing if it's right for you. But if you are a computer science major and you need to view your requirements, scroll over to program info and then click on whichever your program or your degree is. So for most of you, that would probably be the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. And this will basically list just all of the course requirements for that degree. So it's 120 units. This is pretty standard. You'll learn what this means soon. But it'll list all of your requirements, all of the lower division classes you have to take, as well as upper division, honors in the major, advising requirements, all those tips and tricks. Basically everything to do with your major and your major's program is going to be in this page. So this is what I would check all the time just to make sure I was taking the right classes and I was on track. Super, super useful. I would definitely recommend familiarizing yourself with this page for whatever your major is. And then also right here is department info. So if you click on that, it'll just kind of drop down with the computer science department and their contact number, email, and the department chair, as well as the college that it's under. So Chico State is divided into 7 colleges. These are basically just groupings of several majors that share something in common. So for example, computer science is in the College of Engineering, Computer Science, and Construction Management, and it has its contact information here as well. You can also go into faculty, and view all of the faculty and previous faculty who have worked in this department. So that's it for academic programs. Does that make sense? Is that pretty clear? Awesome. All right, so next under courses, this is what you can look at if you ever see a course abbreviation, that you don't know what it means or you're interested in it. You can say, okay, what does BADM mean? And you can scroll over courses, come down here, click into it, actually, hover over it, and it'll tell you that's business administration. And if you click on it, it'll list every single class under the business administration course abbreviation that Chico State offers. So if you want to take BADM 101, you can click on that and see what it's all about. So that can be pretty useful when you're looking up courses as well, or when you see them on the GE planning sheet, anything like that. Next is degree maps. So these are pretty useful, basically just plans for your major. Oh, okay, they're in a new spot. So now they can be found on the Academic Advising Programs website. So that's cool. I can show you where you can find those there. But basically, these are just, basically they are just maps for whatever your major is. They will list out each semester what classes you should be taking. So if you are a computer science major, it'll have your first semester recommended courses to take, second semester recommended courses, third semester recommended courses. Some majors follow these like to a T. They recommend them, they give them to every student, like that is what you do. Other majors don't really think about them, don't pay attention to them. They're kind of a guide, but you don't have to follow them. So I would definitely talk to your major advisor or your department chair or anyone like that, connect with them and see if they use the maps and if that's a helpful tool for you. I didn't use mine a whole lot, but I know a lot of people who have, so definitely be aware of this resource. Okay, next we're going to go into the class schedule. So this is not only a schedule of classes, but it also lists a lot of important dates. So here you have fall 2020 registration dates, new students. You have the fall orientation, which is what you're in right now. So your first registration appointment, as well as the add drop period, which is August 10th to September 4th. And then it has spring 2021 registration dates and some other dates and deadlines, like the first day of classes. We're so excited, August 24th, 2020. And also financial aid disbursement, university census, things like that. So besides that, you can pretty much just click on the correct semester and view all kinds of classes that are being offered. So if we go into fall 2020, okay, here we go, sorry. It'll list by department all of the classes that are being offered. So if you want to take a biology class in the fall, you can click on biological sciences and see all of the classes that are open and available and ready for you to sign up for. I know this can be pretty overwhelming, but it's definitely a resource to be aware of just in case you would like to use that when you're registering for classes. And then you can also see open GE courses. Now this is super helpful if you need to find a course that fulfills one of your requirements. You can click on that and say you need an oral communication class, which you'll understand all of these in just a few minutes. You can click on that and you can see all of the open oral communication classes that are offered in the fall. And then you can pick whatever time you want or whatever professor you want, and you can sign up for that class. So that's something to be aware of. Again, I didn't use this much. However, I have used it a lot to help students at orientation. So it's a great resource, especially for finding an open GE class. If you're seeing a bunch that are full or closed or something like that, this is an awesome resource just to make sure that you can find something that's open. All right. So I just want to show you a couple more. So the campus map, we have campus maps for not only main campus, which is this one right here, but also for University Village, if any of you will be living there, and the University Farm. If any of you have agriculture classes or would just like to learn a little bit more about the farm, that's there as well. But for the main campus map, it's pretty straightforward, kind of like an aerial view of all of the buildings. And if you need to find anything, you can also search right here. So if you need to find Butte Hall, you can type it in right there and it'll pop up. Butte Hall is just right here in the center of campus. But the search is super, super helpful, and it can definitely help you in your first week if you're a little lost or anything like that. All right. Okay, so next is the directory. This is super helpful if you have a group project or something like that and you didn't catch someone's name. You can type them in right here and it'll give you their student email. And you can also look for faculty, staff, and even just departments through this directory. So that's super, super helpful. And then the library is right here. This will take you to online resources that the library offers. You can live chat with a librarian. Maybe you're writing a paper and have questions about finding resources or anything like that. They also offer you to like look into a bunch of peer-reviewed articles and stuff like that that you can use on essays, and just a bunch of awesome resources. So let's just touch on this real quick. Yeah, so you can search for articles and things like that right here. You can chat, call, or email a librarian right there, as I said. You can also check out and renew books. You can ask for a book that another CSU has, but Chico State does not have. You can find newspapers. You can learn about our makerspace, all kinds of things like that. Okay, so that is all for the website right now. So we'll go back to this. Do you have any questions on the Chico State website, online resources, anything like that? Okay, cool. So next up, we're going to talk about the 9 graduation requirements. So there are 9 requirements to be able to graduate with your degree from Chico State. We'll go into each in a little more detail, but they're pretty simple, just something to be aware of. Yeah, I just want you all to know and be aware of these things, but they're definitely not things that you have to like keep on your mind and make sure you're doing. They're pretty straightforward, and you'll meet pretty much all of them just by being here and taking your classes. But again, I'll just go over all of them for you. Okay, so first is total units. So in order to graduate, you must have 120 to 128 total units. Excuse me. Now this does depend on major. Traditionally, most majors are 120 units. However, some like engineering or some of those more like STEM majors are high unit majors, so they might go up to 124 or even 128 units. And most of those majors have some of their requirements modified, so it's easier for you to graduate in 4 years. But definitely be aware of how many units your major requires. So before I talk about units too much more, some of you might not know what that is. If your high school didn't use units and you haven't heard about them previously, or you haven't been to like a college talk like this before, it's totally normal. I wasn't really sure what a unit was either. So let me just address that really fast. So a unit is basically just a value that indicates the amount of college credit given to a course. That's my little definition there. But to put that in kind of more understandable terms, if you have a class that's 1 unit, which is not super common, but just for visualization's sake, if you have a 1 unit class, that typically means that you're going to spend 1 hour in class per week and 2 hours outside of class per week on that class. So your outside of class can be homework, essays, research, projects, things like that. Traditionally, though, at Chico State, classes are usually 3 units, especially the classes you'll be signing up for today. Some are 4 if they have a lab or something like that, but 3 is pretty straightforward, pretty traditional. So for that, you can expect to spend about 3 hours per week in class, and about 6 hours outside of class on homework, papers, things like that. And like I've said here, these are just estimates. Some classes will have barely any homework, You won't spend even close to 6 hours a week on them, and other classes might be more intensive. So they might have papers due more often, or they might have more intense research projects or something like that. So this is sort of just a high average to make sure that you're aware of this and you're ready for the workload. So does that make sense? We all like have an idea of what a unit is now. Perfect. Okay, so if one class is about 3 units, we're going to recommend that you take about 15 units, which is going to be about 5 classes each semester in order to graduate in 4 years. Now, if this is something that's a high priority to you and you want to make sure to get out of here in 4 years, definitely stick to 15 each semester. However, if you are in a semester and you're a week or 2 in and it already seems like too much, maybe all 5 of those classes are really intense or going to be really challenging for you, that's okay. If you need to drop a class, that's totally fine. Just make sure that you're taking at least 12 units each semester so that you're qualifying for financial aid and you are considered a full-time student. And then also, if you would like to take just 12 a semester and still graduate in 4 years, there's always summer courses and winter courses and things like that to help you stay on track. So with that, make sure to balance your workload. 15 units using this unit formula up here, will equal out to about 45 hours per week spent on school. So between class time and homework time, about 45 hours is the estimate. And that's more than a full-time job. So on top of that, you don't want to be working a full-time job, or you don't want to have a part-time job and 5 clubs and 2 sports and a bunch of volunteering. All of those things are amazing, and I definitely recommend that you take part in things like that. And if you'd like to work, that's awesome as well. Or if you need to work, props to you. You can totally do it. I've worked through college. It's definitely doable, but just don't overwhelm yourself, especially this first semester. Okay, if that makes sense, we'll move on to the next one, which is a lot simpler. So upper division units is our second grad requirement. So upper division, firstly, basically means that these are classes labeled 300 and above, and they're a little bit more rigorous, and they are traditionally the classes that you take in your junior and senior years, although you might start on them sophomore year depending on what the class is. Now your lower division courses are going to be the opposite. So they're going to be labeled 100 to 299. They're more introductory courses, survey classes, things like that. And you're going to focus on these in your first and second years. Now today, you're definitely just registering for lower division courses. I would never recommend a first year student to sign up for an upper division class in their first semester. It can just be a little too challenging for someone new to college, and it usually builds upon things and fundamentals that you learn in lower division classes. So it's just very wise to stick to lower division for your first few semesters. And like I said, there are 39 units required of upper division, but these will be almost definitely met through your major and GE requirements. If you have a very low unit major, you should be aware of this and make sure maybe you pick up a minor or take some elective classes, something like that. But it's definitely nothing to be worried about, especially now. Okay, third is residence units. So this just refers to the number of units that you need to take here at Chico. Because if you think for a moment, it doesn't make sense to take 110 units at CSU East Bay and then transfer to Chico, take your last 10 units, and get a degree from Chico State. I don't know who would want to do this or try to do this, but it is in place just to make sure that when you get a degree from Chico State, you are getting it from Chico State. And residence units does not mean that you have to live on campus or live in the residence halls. They do not have anything to do with each other. It just means that you have to take these classes through Chico State. And again, don't worry about this one. You're starting here your very first semester of college. You're going to take way more than 30 units here at Chico State. So don't worry about this. It applies a little bit more to transfer students, but I just wanted to make sure you're all aware. Okay, next is general education. So GE, or general education, is made up of 48 units, and it's divided into 3 main sections. So you have the foundation, the American institutions requirement, and the pathways. I will go into all of these in a lot more detail in just a moment, but just so you know, those are the 3 sections. And the purpose of GE is really just to make you more well-rounded, to give you a chance to explore different majors or minors that you might be interested in. You can meet other students who aren't in your major and make great new friends and connections with more interesting people from all different majors, all different interests. You can find new passions, you can expand your mind, the list goes on and on. So 48 units is a third of your degree. So definitely make the most of GE, take classes that are interesting to you. There's so many options, and we'll go into all of them in just a few moments. Okay, 5th is the diversity requirement. Now, this requirement basically just prepares you to live and work in an increasingly diverse society, and it expands your worldview. It makes you more appreciative of different cultures and different people from backgrounds that are different from your own. So this requires 2 different courses, a US diversity class that looks at underrepresented or marginalized groups within the United States, and then a global cultures class, which looks at cultures, ethnicities, religions, anything like that outside of the US and the Western heritage. So no, US, Canada, Europe, places other than that. And these are not specific courses. So you're not gonna find like USD 110 or GC 240. You're not going to have classes like that. Instead, you're just going to look for any class that has a USD or GC attached to it. So for example, Women's Studies 170 is a USD class, and Child Development 272 is a Global Cultures class. You can find a lot of these on the GE planning sheet, and we'll point this out later. Okay, next is the American Institutions requirement, which we like to shorten to AIR. It's a lot easier to say. And this is also a 2-course requirement, although it's a little bit different. So this requirement is made up of History 130, which is US history. It's going to be pretty simple to what you had in high school, but now at the college level. And then Political Science 155, which is American government. And this will be also a little similar to what you had in high school, but this time you're going to be learning about national, state, and local government, all fairly equally. These are great classes to take your first year. In fact, I'll recommend that all of you take one of these your first semester, although I don't recommend taking them together because they can be a little bit similar and both require you to read a little bit. So having both of them at the same time could be a little overwhelming with similar material. Next is math and writing. So I'll talk about this a lot more later, but basically your math is satisfied by 1 course, which is your GE Area A4, and your writing is satisfied by 4 courses, which I'll go into greater detail later. But basically it's your GE Area A2. Your W2 is going to be any writing course, which I will show you how to find later. Your W3 is going to be any upper division writing course, although some majors do determine which class this is, so definitely check with your major before you just pick any W upper division class. And then your W4 is going to be your GWAR, or your Graduation Writing Assessment Requirement course, and this is always determined by your major. And then as you'll see, there's 4 of these, and you have about 4 years of college. So I would take 1 of these each year, roughly. That's not a rule at all, but just space these out, especially since 2 of them are upper division. There's no need to get these done in your first year or anything like that. Okay, we're almost done with the grad requirements. So number 8 is just to declare a major. So if you haven't declared a major or you're considering changing your major, let me know. We can talk during an individual appointment this afternoon. And don't worry, this is nothing to stress about. A lot of you probably already have your major declared, and those of you who don't worry, because the average student changes their major like 3 or 4 times. I have not changed mine, but so many of my coworkers, so many of my friends have multiple times. It's totally normal. It doesn't have to set you back. So don't be worried about that. If you aren't for sure on your major, that's totally fine. And if you'd like to, we can totally chat later about that. So the last requirement is going to be your GPA, or your grade point average. You have to maintain a 2.0 or C average to graduate from Chico State. So you're going to shoot for grades higher than C, But if you have like a tough semester or anything like that, just make sure that you're staying at or above a 2.0. And please take note that plus and minus grades count by 0.3. So for example, if you get an A in a class, that's a 4.0. That's awesome, great job. If you get an A minus, that's going to be a 3.7. So while that's still an awesome grade, that does change your GPA quite a bit. So be aware of that, because if you have all C's one semester, that's a 2.0. That's great, you're good to go. But if you have 4 C's and 1 C minus, that's going to put you below a 2.0. So definitely be aware of that. And if you ever need help, I have some resources here. I would recommend leaning on your professors, leaning on academic advising, and getting help in the Student Learning Center. There are amazing student tutors there in pretty much every subject, as well as just general GE classes who can help you do better on your assignments. You just understand the material better. So do we have any questions about these? That's all the grad requirements. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. Take a sip of water, take a little break. We'll come back in just a moment and move on to general education. All right, so if you're all ready, we can move on to GE. So first, let's just have a little overview of GE. As I've said, general education helps you explore different majors and minors, make you more well-rounded. It's made up of 48 units, and those 3 main components are the foundation, air, and the breadth pathways. That's always a tongue twister, the pathways. So I'll go into each of these. First, we'll talk about the foundation. So this is the foundation right here, the screenshot here. It consists of 6 courses or 18 units, and there's no time limit to complete these, but it's suggested that you complete them in your first 3 semesters, or at least your first 2 years, just because these are all first and second year courses. So you're gonna be ready for them right now, this year, next year. You should be knocking out pretty much all of these. And then your A2 and your A4, so your written communication and your math, must be attempted in your first year. So I would highly recommend that all of you take one of those, if not both, in the fall. And if any of you need support classes along with those, I would recommend that even more. Definitely get into those classes this fall. That way they're fresh in your mind, you can get them done, you can be proud of them. And if you ever need to attempt them again, or if you don't do too well, it's okay, you have time. Just make sure that you attempt them. If not this semester, definitely next semester. And then your B1 and your B2, sorry, I haven't talked about A1 or A3. Okay, A1 is going to be your oral communication class. So as we looked at the list of these online a few minutes ago, this is basically public speaking. So there are 2 options here. You have CMST 131, which is going to be solo public speaking. You will write and rehearse and perform speeches by yourself. And then CMST 132, which is in a group. So you and your group mates will build speeches together and present them, and you'll learn a lot more about group dynamics and communication and things like that. Your A2 is your written communication, so either English or journalism 130. English is going to be a little bit more traditional and like you might have had in high school, and journalism is going to be a little bit more focused on articles and newspaper writing and things like that. So your A3 is your critical thinking. This can be met through several different classes from different disciplines, but they all cover sort of the same topics. So you're going to be talking about how to construct a logical argument, how to analyze arguments for fallacies and things like that, and just how to be a critical thinker and how to think and speak and debate logically. I really enjoyed this class when I took it, and I definitely recommend it to any of you. It might sound a little bit scary, but it definitely isn't, and it can be really, really rewarding. Your A4, like I've said, is your math. You should definitely look into your major requirements before picking your A4 class. Your math will generally be determined, your math will almost definitely be determined by your major. And if it's not determined by your major, then it is your option. So you can choose any kind of traditional math class like stats, trigonometry, anything like that. Or you can take one of these. So Business Information Systems 111, or my personal favorite, Finance 101. This is going to teach a little less about math and a little more about personal finances. So if your major does not require a specific math class, I would definitely recommend that you look into that. It's going to be something that will probably help you as you grow as an adult, doing financial things. It'll be helpful. And then your B1 and your B2 are your sciences. So B1 is physical science, so like earth science, environmental science, chemistry, geography, physics, things like that. And then your life science is going to be anthropology, biology, plant and soil science, living systems, and things like that. Now, these are also great things to take your first year. However, I would not recommend non-STEM majors to take B1 and B2 at the same time, just because all of these classes will have labs attached to them, and having 2 labs at the same time could be a little bit much. Does this make sense? Foundation makes sense to everyone? Okay, cool. So next we have the AIR, or American Institutions requirement. So as I've said, you have History 130 and Pols, or Political Science 155. So 2 courses, 6 units, super straightforward. There's no options here. And these are suggested to be taken in the first year, but probably not together unless you're super into these and you want to. That's great. Otherwise, I would recommend spacing them out. Did we have questions on that before I move on? Okay, cool. So writing requirement, this is a bit of review, but I just want to go over it a little bit more in depth. So this consists of 4 writing courses. Your W1 is going to be the exact same as your A2, so that English 130 or Journalism 130. Once you take that class, you can check off your A2 and your W1. Now your W2 will be any lower or upper division W course. Most people make this a lower division just because they tend to be a little bit more simple, but if you end up taking an upper division class for it, that's totally fine as well. And I would recommend doing this maybe next semester or next year after you finish your A2. Now, W3, like it says here, definitely consult your degree and your advisor for course selection. Your major might determine which upper division writing class you take for W3. However, if they don't, like mine didn't tell me what to take, you can pick any upper division class with a W attached to it, which I will show you on the plan sheet. And then W4, like it says here, definitely consult your degree and your advisor. Every degree at Chico State has a determined W4 class. Okay, did the writing make sense? Perfect. Okay, so next you can flip your planning sheets over to the back side, or the pathways. Okay, so I know that this can look really scary if you're new to this, but let's just go through it bit by bit and make sense of it together. So first of all, you have a few different things going on here. So in this section here, this is your lower division section of the GE pathways. And then this smaller portion down here is going to be your upper division pathway classes. Up at the top, I'll get to this later, but it's a little different, so you don't have to pay it any mind right now. And then basically for each circle, there is going to be a row attached to it. And these are pretty much like, you can think of these as the requirements. So you have to take one class from each row, or like, sorry. So like how on the front, you take one class for each dot, it's pretty much the same on the back. One class for each dot, which basically means one class in each row. Okay, so that means that you have 5 lower division classes and 3 upper division classes that make up the pathways. So I know when I first looked at this sheet, I thought, oh my God, do I have to take all of these? I'll be at Chico State forever. And that's definitely not true. Hopefully you're not thinking this. If you do, that's okay. It can be really, really scary. But basically you just have to take 5 lower division and 3 upper division, so 8 courses total to fulfill your pathway. And these 10 pathways range a lot of different interest areas. They're basically just different themes that incorporate different disciplines and different subject areas talking about a central idea or theme. There's a lot of freedom in these to make sure that you take classes that interest you and classes that you'll be successful in. It's not more like the front where there are specific classes you have to take. You'll have many options for these. So just to dive into the lower division pathways first, you have to take 1 class from each of the rows, like I've said, 5 classes or 15 units total, and you can take these from any pathway. So any column you want, any box you want, they don't have to be in the same column. So for example, if your C1 class, if you're really into theater and you want to take Theater 252, that's great. It fits into diversity studies as well as ethics, justice, and policy, and also sustainability over here on the other side. But then for your C2, if you want to take English 261, and that's in gender and sexuality studies, that's totally fine. They do not have to be in the same column. So basically just for each row, go through all of these classes, see what's interesting for you, see what fits into your schedule, and take whichever class you would prefer. So the upper division pathways are pretty similar. However, there's only 3 rows this time. So a lot less in the upper division section than in the lower division. You have 9 total units for this, so that's obviously a lot less. However, there is something different for these. So for your upper division classes, they have to all be in the same pathway or the same column. So for example, if you take Public Health 323, you have to take your other 2 classes from these 2 boxes. Or if you take Social Science 300, you have to take your other 2 from these 2 boxes. So once you start on a pathway, you have to finish in that pathway. And since these are upper division, like I said, it's advised that you don't take them until your sophomore or junior year, or here it says 45 units. So that's technically the middle of your sophomore year if you take 15 each semester. However, just as a general rule, you can start on these in about junior year, a little earlier if you'd like. Okay, so does the lower and the upper division pathways make sense? Do I have any questions on those? I don't want to move on if they're still kind of hazy. Okay, perfect. So now I'll talk about the optional pathway minor. So this pathway minor is a great way to pick up a minor if you don't want to take any extra classes outside of GE and outside of your major. So this minor allows you to just focus your GE pathway and get a minor through it without taking any extra classes or anything like that. It just requires a little bit of planning on your part, and that's pretty much it. So this minor requires 18 units overall. So you might be doing the math in your head and realizing that that is not 15 plus 9, doesn't equal 18. So you have a little bit of leeway here. So 18 units is divided by 3 out of your 5 lower division classes and all 3 of your upper division classes being in the same pathway. So like I was saying with your upper division, they do all have to be in the same pathway, no matter if you take no matter if you want to pursue a minor or not. So that'll be an easy portion of this to complete. However, it's above the upper division, so it gets a little confusing. Your lower division classes can be in any pathway you want them to be, unless you would like to get the pathway minor. So if you want to get the pathway minor, you must have 3 of your 5 in the same column, and then your other 2 can be in any column you want. So if you want to take all of them in food studies, but African American Studies 170 really interests you, that's okay. You can take 2 classes that are not in that same column. So like I said, you complete this minor just by fulfilling your pathway requirements, and it looks great on a resume. It's just a great little addition to your degree, especially if you don't get a traditional minor. which is by no means required unless you are interested in that. And there are 2 shortcuts to help you complete this minor. So I'll go into that real briefly here. So first of all, you have the Foundation Association up here. Like I said, I am circling back to that. So the Foundation Association is just made up of classes that are on the front sheet, right here in the front of the GE planning sheet in the foundation. Some of these classes are put into the Foundation Association on the back, which means that they can be double counted into pathway minor requirements. So these classes do not fulfill the C1 or C2 or D1 or D2 or anything like that, but they do fulfill one of the 3 slots for your pathway minor classes. So if you're going after this international studies pathway minor and you have Econ 102 and Theater 251, but you need one more, well, maybe you took Geological Sciences 101, and maybe that can be your 3rd. So that's a great shortcut to keep in mind. I used actually both of these shortcuts to get my pathway minor in Science, Tech, and Values, so they're definitely super helpful. And the next one is this right here in the center. That's highlighted in yellow now. So this is what we call the language wildcard. So all of the language classes at Chico State, from Spanish to Japanese to Russian to French, they're all under the C2 or humanities requirement. And if you take one of these, it will fulfill any pathway requirement, not just one. So whereas Philosophy 104 only fulfills food studies, a language would fulfill any of those pathways. So that's a great thing to take if you're interested in the language. It'll give you a lot of flexibility. Okay, do we have any questions on the pathways, the pathway minors, anything like that? Awesome. Okay, so just one last thing I want to point out on the pathways before I move on to course selection and the last sort of remaining things. Like I said, you can double count a lot of things in these pathways. So as I was talking about earlier with the diversity requirement, you have USDs and GCs that you have to complete. So if you're looking at these classes and say you're interested in Psychology 151, do you see that teeny tiny USD right there? That means that that class meets a US diversity requirement, and that can be your one class to fulfill that. Similarly, right here you have History 102 GC. That means it completes your Global Cultures requirement. So as you can see, there are a bunch of those classes in these pathways. So I would highly recommend that you double count your diversity in the pathways. Otherwise, you'll have to take 2 extra classes unless that diversity requirement is met by major requirements. So for sure, look into that. Otherwise, double count here, or you'll have to take extra classes. And then very similarly, we have writing classes. So you'll see the classes that have a W next to them are writing classes. So if you're looking for that W2 maybe next year or something like that, you're not sure which writing class to take, but you need a C2 and you're trying to go after global development studies for a pathway minor, maybe you could take English 258W. So that's definitely something to be aware of as well. Double counting is awesome. Triple counting is even better. Super rare, but sometimes you can get a major class, a GE class, and a diversity or a writing or something like that all in one class. So that's definitely awesome, and keep an eye out for those. Okay, moving on to a few course selection tips. Does anyone here have AP credit? Oh my God, great, a lot of you. Okay, shout out some things that you've taken. Spanish, calculus, English. Okay, cool. So those are awesome. Congratulations to all of you who have AP credit. Those can totally fulfill GE requirements. If you would like to talk in more detail about these, we can have an individual advising session later. But basically, these can fulfill GE except for political science. or government that will not fulfill your POLS 155 class, just because standardized tests don't cover everything that the class here at Chico State does, and we want to make sure that you are a very informed citizen on local issues as well as national and just state issues in general. So if anyone would like to chat more about AP credit, please let me know. We can set up an individual advising session later on. And then if you're going to enroll, if you're going to enroll in math or English with support, and you should have a sheet that will tell you if you need support or not, we advise that you sign up for these classes first and build your schedule around them. So if you have, say, a math class with support, there's only going to be a few options for you. So if you already have 4 other classes and then you're trying to fit in that math class with support, it might be pretty difficult to fit it into your schedule. So rather, I would recommend signing up for that math class with the support class. Get that out of the way, get it signed up. It'll be a relief off your shoulders. You're in it, it's okay. And then you can move on to your other classes and sort of build your schedule around them, because you'll have a lot more options with the rest of your courses. Okay, does that make sense? Perfect. Do we have any more questions right now, just before I move on to sort of like a general list? Okay, cool. So you're generally advised to take 1 or 2 classes from the foundation. So for example, your A2 and your A4, like I said, have to be attempted in your first year. So I would recommend signing up for either math or English, especially if you need support. And then maybe you can take public speaking or critical thinking or your life science or something like that to be a second foundation class. You should also take 1 or 2 lower division. Every time I touch it, it moves, I'm sorry. You should also take 1 or 2 lower division pathway courses. So the C1, C2, D1, D2, and E that I just showed you. And like I said, you can double count diversity, writing, or major requirements depending on the class. And then you should take either political science or history. You don't have to, but it's recommended just because they are first year courses. You're totally ready for them. And especially with political science, I would recommend taking that as you're turning 18 and it's an election year. You probably want to be an informed and educated citizen. So I would recommend taking that government class and gaining that knowledge. And then if you have extra space, or you have a bunch of AP credit or something like that, and you just want to pick a class that you're interested in and you haven't been able to take in the past, or at your high school, maybe, you know, something in the arts or anthropology or design or music, or there's so many topics here, computer science, engineering, there's so many different things to explore. So especially if you're undeclared or you're looking for a minor or something like that, I would recommend taking a class, just sort of like an elective, to see if you like it, see if you're passionate about it. And then if any of you are looking for a pathway course, but you don't know which course to take, which one to choose, they all look amazing, and you can't decide, maybe consider a connections course. So connections courses are really, really cool. They are offered on 3 different topics: sustainability, health and wellness, and social equity. And within social equity, you can take a women's studies class or a multicultural and gender studies class. So kind of technically 4 topic areas. But these are really interesting classes because not only are they a traditional like lecture discussion class like usual, but in addition to that, you get to go on a free, all expenses paid camping retreat near the beginning of the semester. And you also get to go on different events ran by peer mentors, so people kind of similar to me, an upperclassman who can show you around the town or show you events that have to do with your class. So these are really cool events that you can go on, and they actually count towards your class grade. They count like basically as assignments, like homework. So I was actually a peer mentor for this program last fall, and it was so cool. I got to take groups of students to the farmers market and to talk about sustainability, and what was another one we went to? Yeah, we went to a talk by a woman who had gone to the North Pole, and we heard her story, and we got class credit. Like, that's amazing to me. So definitely take advantage of this program. You can meet really cool people, make connections. It's a connections course. And you can connect with a peer mentor who can kind of guide you in your first semester. We don't want to just leave you after orientation. We want to make sure that you're doing okay and settling in well and making those good campus connections. So connections courses will be a great choice for any of you, especially if you're interested in any of these topic areas. And if you have questions about these, let me know. We can talk later. All right, are there any questions on that before I move into policies? All right. So we're gonna go over advising, attendance, registration, grading, and some catalog tips. So first, I'll go over our advising system. So Chico State has a dual advising system, which means that we have academic advising, who specialize in GE. They can help you with things like if you're struggling with your GPA, or if you don't know what major to pick, or anything like that. Any sort of general questions you can direct right to academic advising. Also, if you have a question and you don't know who can answer it, they are an amazing resource, because if they know the answer, and honestly they probably will, they'll be more than happy to share it with you. And if they don't, they'll know exactly who can help you and they'll direct you their way. So if you have a question, you don't know where to take it, go to see an advisor. They're all super amazing, friendly people here to help you succeed. So go see them and get all of your needs answered. However, if you have questions that are specific to your major, maybe to classes or internships or what sort of job you could get, maybe a letter of recommendation, things like that, go see a major advisor. So they are typically faculty members within your department who are super knowledgeable on your classes and on opportunities for you and things like that. Academic advising is located in the Student Services Center, or SSC, room 220. So this is the SSC right here, just a street view of it. And then major advisors are going to be all over campus. So wherever their office is where they are. So you can find them from the directory or just from asking your professors or anything like that. And it is wise to see an advisor every semester, be they academic advising or a major advisor, just to make sure you're on track, you're signing up for the right classes, you're doing well, you're being successful, all those great things. Next up is attendance. So how many of you have heard that in college, attendance doesn't matter, professors don't care if you're there, you can go if you want, you can just read the textbook and take the tests and you'll be fine? Like, we've all heard this, right? It's not true. I'm so sorry to break it to you, but it is not true. Attendance is totally mandatory in classes. Most professors take attendance, and it's usually a part of your class grade. And even if they don't, if you aren't showing up to class, you're not getting those discussions, you're not getting those lectures, you're not getting those activities, you could be losing points. And most importantly, you won't be gaining that knowledge. So when you go on test day, you're not going to know everything that's on it. So quickest way to fail a course is definitely to miss class or to stop showing up. And if you need to stop going to a class, you need to drop it, maybe it's too much or it doesn't work in your schedule anymore, drop it properly. Don't just stop showing up. That will not help you. It will not help your grades or your standing in any way. And if you are sick or an emergency comes up, obviously life happens, that's okay. Just make sure that you email your professor and you let them know what class you have to miss, why, and ask them what you need to do to stay up to date. They could possibly send you lectures or give you the assignments, anything like that, to make sure that you're not losing points or missing out on information that you need. Next up is registration periods. So your first opportunity is today. I hope you're all ready and excited to sign up for classes. Your registration will begin this afternoon and your opportunity will end tomorrow night at midnight. So if you sign up for all 5 classes today and you're feeling great, but you wake up tomorrow and you think to yourself, you know, I really want to take chemistry instead of physics. That's okay. You can change up your entire schedule tomorrow if you want to. We do give you the entire night and all of tomorrow in order to finalize your schedule and make sure that it's sitting right with you. Your second opportunity is during new student registration from August 3rd through 5th. Some classes will open up during this time, so if you see a class that's closed, it might open up on August 3rd, so definitely check back on that. And it's just another opportunity to change your schedule, or maybe you get a job and you need to change that schedule or something, you totally can. And then your third opportunity is during the add drop period between August 10th and September 4th. This is 2 weeks before school starts and the first 2 weeks of school. So this is the time that you can kind of change around your schedule. If a class is already way too much on your plate or anything like that, that's when you can change that. Does that all make sense? Okay, perfect. Next up is the PEL, the Planned Educational Leave. I want to bring this to all of your attention because this is a really cool opportunity you have. If you ever have something come up in your life, maybe something medical or family emergency, or you just need a break from school for whatever reason that may be, don't stop showing up to class. Don't just drop off the face of the earth and never talk to anyone. Instead, go see academic advising and set up a PEL, or a Planned Educational Leave. So a PEL allows you to take 1 or 2 consecutive semesters off with no penalty, and Chico State will hold your spot so that you don't have to reapply to the university. You can just come back seamlessly and get back into your classes. So hopefully no giant emergencies will happen in your life during college, but like I said, life happens. So if anything does, or you're just super stressed out, you want to take a semester off, anything like that, be aware of this resource because it can definitely help you. Okay, next, I just want to go over a few grading system symbols. So we do grades by A, B, C, D, and F, just like you probably had in high school. We do have pluses and minuses. However, we do not have an A+, a D-, or an F+. You can't fail fabulously. And sadly, you can't do so amazing that you get over a 4.0. So just be aware of this. And like I said, pluses and minuses do apply to your GPA. They affect it by 0.3. So that 4.0 versus 3.7, that A versus A-. Be aware of that, because if you're kind of teetering between a C- or a C, that could totally sway your GPA below a 2.0. So definitely be aware of that. And with that, that brings us to the end of our small group discussion. So I hope you've learned a lot. If you have any questions, of course, you can stay on. I'll be here. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions that you may have. And I'm sure you'll gain more throughout the day. So I do actually have individual advising appointments this afternoon. But just for a little schedule of the remainder of orientation, you will now head to major advising, and you'll get to meet maybe your department chair or a faculty member in your department, which will be great, your first kind of campus connection. So that'll be at this link. Go ahead and click that whenever you are ready. But before you go, I just want to let you know, between 12 and 2:30, you can sign up for a 20-minute individual advising appointments with a peer advisor at this link right here. And to be prepared for registration, you should definitely review these videos here. And then at 2:30 p.m., course registration will begin. So if you need additional help, we will be available via Zoom at this link. If you have any technical difficulties, questions on classes, if you forget this entire lecture, that's okay. We're still here, we're still working, we still want to help you and support you. So you can definitely click this link at any time and we will be here to help you. So with that, I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you are ready to go and excited for your time here at Chico. I've loved meeting all of you. I hope I've helped your morning go smoothly, and I hope I've answered a lot of your questions. But if you need anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great day and welcome to Chico State.